Hi, this is Angie, and welcome to Is It Real or Is It Fake News? So, what exactly is fake news? Fake news is stories that appear to be news spread on the internet or using other media, usually created to influence political views or as a joke. Unfortunately, the term fake news has kind of lost some of its relevance. It was once referred to misinformation designed to look like legitimate news, but the term's been so overused, it's just become really meaningless. And it's also been used as kind of a weapon of political ideals. And you'll see this a lot. People will be putting things on the internet, and other people will be trying to put out legitimate news stories, but somebody else will come around and say, oh no, that's fake news. So it really has become a weapon used on both sides to kind of create an idea that the other side is somehow trying to manipulate the news. So, what we used to call fake news, and a lot of people still call it fake news, it can also be referred to as information disorder. And the information disorder can be ranked from least harmful to most harmful in the things that you'll find online that include misinformation. So, the first and the least harmful of all of these would be satire or parody. So, if something comes from The Onion, you see a fake news story on there, usually it's meant to generate a laugh from people. And then the next is false connection, such as clickbait. So sometimes you'll see an outrageous headline that just makes you want to click on it just to see if this is actually real. And that is usually just to get people to direct them to their website. And that's just clickbait. And then we have misleading content, and that's usually information to intentionally frame something in a biased manner. And you'll see that a lot with left or right leaning websites. And then false context. So, you see a photo of somebody doing something kind of silly, but it happened maybe like 10 years ago. And it's being captioned as happening right now. And that can be a false context. And then we have imposter content. And this is stuff that's supposed to look like it came from somebody legitimate. So you see that a lot with celebrities. Maybe they've got their own website, but then somebody else is posting as them on a different site. And it's not them. They're just putting stuff out there to pretend to be them. And then we have falsified content, such as photoshopped images, doctored videos. You'll see a lot of AI images and videos nowadays because they're so easy to create, and they are they're getting very sophisticated, and a lot of people are falling for this information now. So being able to spot when something is AI is also something a part of discovering fake news that a lot of people need to learn. And then we have the most harm is just completely false content, and it's just information that is shared with the intent to spread information and misinformation and lies and to cause harm to others. So let's talk about news literacy. How can we become news literate? And what is news literacy? Let's learn more about that. News literacy is the ability to determine the credibility of news and other information and to recognize the standards of fact based journalism to know what to trust, share, and act on. And that is from newslit.org. And they provide a whole lot of information on how to identify fake news and how to find credible sources of news. One way that a lot of us in information literacy have learned in order to find legitimate sources of information is the CRAP method. And this involves looking at the currency of the information that we're looking for. How is this new? Is this updated? Is this years old? And then we'll look at the relevance. Does this suit my purpose? Is this information that I need for my purposes? And then accuracy. Is this fact? Is this opinion? Does this have references? Are there legitimate sources? Are the facts that are in here actual facts? And then we can look at the author. Is this author an authority? Are they a legitimate reporter or journalist? And then looking at the purpose of the piece. Is this the purpose just to inform us of the news, or is this to persuade us into a certain opinion? And that can be really tricky sometimes because we may not recognize the biases in the news that is being reported. Another method for determining credibility of sources and information is the SIFT method, which was developed by Michael Caulfield. And that involves the stop, investigate the source, find better coverage, and trace claims, quotes, and media to the original context. And the SIFT method starts off by stopping. So S in SIFT stands for stop, and you take a pause when you start reading something. If you feel that you're having an emotional response to the information you're reading, and then think about what you're reading. Am I having an emotional reaction because of cognitive biases that I have, or of the source? And that stuff you need to just stop and think about. And then we have step 2, which is investigate. And now that we've taken the time to look into how we feel about the information we're reading, then we need to look into the facts. So we need to take time to look at the author of the source, what their authority is on, what medium they're using. Is this a Facebook post? Is this a legitimate news article? Or is this coming from a peer-reviewed article? And what are the motives the author has for posting this information? Are they trying to persuade us into their opinion, or do they just want to share facts? And then we have step 3, which is to find, and we need to look for other sources to corroborate the information we've been given. If we go back online and we've read an article and we're like, that sounds kind of fishy, and you go online to see if there are other articles that giving us the same information that come from legitimate sources, then it's probably correct that that information might be legitimate. However, if we go online, we've read something and it seems like this website is the only one saying this certain thing, and it's possible that it might be misinformation. And finally, we have T, which is trace. So you need to trace back to the claims that have been made. So you need to go back sometimes to the original source. If there were facts put out that were from studies, or if there are quotes from experts, you need to go back and see what the context was. See if the facts and the figures that they have included in with their information in their news article are correct and accurate. And that wraps up my talk on fake news and news literacy. Thank you for watching today, and I hope you have a good one. Bye-bye. And that wraps up my talk on fake news and news literacy.